Burger with Tricky Fast Studios. Today, I'm going to show you a bit about the inventory system in CAD RPG. This is going to be the first video out of several videos on this subject. By the end of this video, you should be able to create a new inventory item, add a placed item so that the player can pick it up, and set up the inventory service in general. So we're starting with this blank scene. It has a player object and some geometry. The player really doesn't have a lot to it. It just has a player controller that can jump and run and the usual stuff. And same with the camera controller. So the first thing we want to do is check under our conductor and see that we don't have an inventory service. So let's add an inventory service now. Okay. So there's a few things on the inventory service that we have. We have a default placed item prefab. There's two parts to every item. There's the inventory item, which is what you actually own and what you carry around with you as a player. And then there's also placed items, which can represent an inventory item and also be placed on the ground so that the player can pick them up. So there's two ways to set up the placed items. You can either have each one have its own placed item prefab that you save separately, or you can use this default placed item prefab. Therefore, any item that's dropped on the ground is going to use that for its placed item. Now there's also a couple of lists here of available items and available attachments. So depending on how your game is set up, you may or may not need to use these. If you're using asset bundles, then you do not need to use these. And what you should instead do is put all your items into asset bundles and reference them via the asset bundles that they're in anytime you are referencing them. Same thing with attachment. Attachments are something we'll talk about in a later video, but they are things that can be added onto items such as prefixes, postfixes, and sockets. So for right now, we're going to ignore both of these. So let's create our inventory item. So we do that via the cat menu. So we can create an inventory item. We want it not under the inventory service. Now you'll notice it's state machine, but it also has the inventory item icon. And it has 3 states already. So there's unequip, unused, and default. So normally, of course, it's in the default state. When you actually pick it up and it's in your bag or in your hands, it's in the equip state. And then all items can optionally have the ability to be used. And when they are used, they're in the unused state. So there's some options for the inventory item here. We should set this initial state to default. We can set the item name. We're going to call this a health potion. And then for the description, we're going to say, gives you some health. And then we can set the item type. So there's a few different item types. It could be an item, weapon, wearable, stackable, or all. We're going to set it to be stackable. Stackable means that if you get more than one of them in your inventory, you can have them combined into one slot so that you can have multiple things in a single slot. For the icon, we're going to select an icon here. We already have a health potion icon, so we're going to set that. Override placed item prefab, we're going to get to that in a minute. Placed item model, so override placed item prefab would override the setting in the inventory service. Placed item model is what would get used with the placed item prefab if we're using the one from the inventory service to actually show what this thing looks like. We're not going to set that right now. Equip prefab, you can set that to something that would show if the thing was in your hands. We're also not going to set that right now. Count, you want to set that to 1. That's how many of the things are there. And then socket count, we don't have any sockets on our potion. And then you can set the rarity. And that's it for the inventory item. So let's call this potion here, our health potion. And now the first thing we need to do is to make it into a prefab. And we're done with that. So now we can get rid of it. Let's create, we'll create a custom place item for this. So cat RPG inventory, placed item. So we'll call this potion, oops, health potion item, placed item. All right, so we have some options here. This is also a state machine. So we want to set the inventory item that it belongs to. So we're going to drag in our health potion there. And we can set a count here, which will override the count that's in the inventory item. We can have an animation that plays when the item's picked up, or a sound that's played. You can set the audio mixer group and the sound source options, and then the sound to play. So the next thing we want to do is to add some geometry to this. And we'll just use this health potion here. Make sure to set that at 0, 0, 0. And let's pick this up off the floor a bit. Bring it a little closer to the player. Here. So now we've actually got a physical health potion. We're going to want to add a collider on it. We will call this, we'll give it a box collider, just make it easy. And I think we also want to make this into a rigid body. Yeah, just gravity, that's fine. Good. Okay. So we're going to need to add a press trigger to detect when the player clicks on it. And then we're going to need to add a picked up trigger. So under this press trigger, we're going to add an action for pick up item, and we want to pick up the owner. Target would be the player, and the item is the owner. Slot, if we don't specify a slot, then it will just go to the first empty one or a bag, depending. Since our right hand, if you remember, is constrained to weapons, and our health potion is not a weapon, it'll just create a bag slot. And then this picked up item trigger, we just point that to owner, and then we want to destroy the item. So that it's not there anymore, so you can't pick it up again. So the next thing we need to do is come back to our test folder here. Remember how I said in the inventory service there's a list of available items. So since we're not using asset bundles, we're going to need to add our new item here. This way you can save and load the inventory. Now, in order to actually do anything with this inventory, our player here needs an inventory manager. So let's add that. So under the inventory manager, we have a couple different items here. Let's just call this actually, let's put this in global. So we have some storage options, such as the storage level, storage key. Normally you would want this set to character, and the storage key could be set to inventory, that's fine, or even player inventory. that will make sure that it gets saved. But I'm using global because I don't want to bring in the concept of characters to this little example. So the options are auto expand bag. So that means that if you pick up a new item and you don't have a slot for it in your bag, then it'll make a new bag slot. And we do want to do that. Auto stack stackables means that since this potion is stackable, if I got a second one, instead of adding it into a new slot in my inventory, if I already had a potion, it would add it to that slot and just increase the count. So we're going to turn that on as well. So we could make some inventory slots here. So we can go under cat, RPG, inventory, equip slot. So we can look, we've created an equip slot here. There's different slot types. Right hand, left hand, two-handed. Adornment is for clothing, and bag is just for carrying. So we're going to actually call this right hand, allowed item types. We'll just say only weapons. So we could set the attach point if we had a model that wasn't just a cylinder or a capsule. So if we had an animated model, we could set this to the bone that it's going to be attached to. Should we spawn a thing, and that's where the equip prefab comes from. That would be spawned at that bone and attached to it. But we don't need that, so we're going to call this right hand. So in order to be able to drop this and have it show up in the world again, we're going to have to make this health potion placed item into a prefab. We can open up our health potion here and then drag into the placed item, override placed item prefab, because we're not setting a global placed item prefab right now, so we're going to have to override on every item. You really basically need to set either the placed item prefab in the inventory service and placed item model for each inventory item, or you just need to set the override placed item prefab for every model. So we're going to set the override placed item prefab here to, whoops, I think I put in the wrong thing. Yep, I did. That wants to be the placed item. So we'll hit apply on that, and we can get rid of this, and let's see what happens. So come over here, pick it up. Look, there it is in our inventory. Let's drop it. We've dropped it. Oh, it was on our head. Now it fell down. We can pick it up again. It's in our inventory. We can drop it again. So, just quickly, this inventory was put together. Inventory window was something that was put together quickly that just shows all your inventory items. I didn't explain it in this video, but I will explain it in a future video for sure. In this video, you should have learned how to create inventory items, how to set up the player to have inventory, how to set up the inventory service, how to create place item prefabs, and how to hook everything up so that you can pick up an item, get it into your inventory, and then drop it. I hope you found this video informative and useful. Let us know in the comments if there are other videos or tutorials you'd like to see. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on social media for the latest videos and other news. For more information on Cat or Cat RPG Builder and how they can help you build and prototype RPGs faster, please visit catgamebuilder.com. I'm Mike Panverger with Tricky Fast Studios. Thanks for watching.